Yeah, so I'm just sitting back, chilling right now. Just finished watching that Diddy documentary that 50 produced. And I recorded one video. That was after I watched the first episode. Now I just watched the second episode and the third. And I think the fourth is to come soon. But I don't know. I don't feel any extra compassion for anybody in the situation. I think Diddy was just a man that grew, that had a lot of ambition, a man that got some power, and a man that was raised in the 70s and the 80s and grew into power. He did what the men do, especially in that demographic, in that culture that he was raised in. That's what the men do. And then he went from like an urban influence into this corporate world where, we know what the corporate men do and how the corporate men just have their way in this American society when it comes to everything. Business, deals, the way they treat women, the way they exploit employees. That's par for that environment. And so, like I was saying in the other video, everybody had choices. Everybody. Every victim that Puff had, or quote unquote victim, everybody he played out of some money or whatever, everybody made choices. And everybody made choices based on their own personal desires. He's not like some devil or nothing like that. He's a dude that had charisma and work ethic and drive and had some fucked up influences. And man, he just did what he did, And I'm saying this from a person that grew in the 80s and 90s as well, and a person who was just an innocent child but raised in the fire. So being raised in the fire, I've done some things too. You know what I'm saying? I've been groomed in certain situations, fucking with OGs too. Not incriminating anybody, and definitely not in those sexual ways, but just in ways where, I played the streets. And anybody that know me or have grown with me from a kid, for a fact that Macho is not that type of person, not the street dude that's going to be out here doing this, that, and the third. But to be honest, if I can be 100% transparent, I've done this, that, and the third through the course of becoming a man and trying to find myself and trying to find my way out here. Growing from a hood mentality where I'm surrounded by this hood mentality and this American bravado, it took me through a windy road of becoming an actual man. And now I can sit here in my 40s with a bunch of life lessons that I've learned over the years and say, okay, yeah, you know what, that's not the way. Maybe this wasn't the way to treat this woman in that particular situation, and vice versa. When it comes to the people that's dealt with me or have done some shit to me in their course of developing as humans, so I think Diddy, I think 50 is actually doing Puffy a service by airing this documentary, because it doesn't vilify Puff. It shows like the reason, and it shows the development of a person, of this person or this character throughout the years, but what they don't do and what could, I think, be more beneficial in this moment is maybe if we do a documentary about Cassie versus Puff, do the documentary about Cassie, right? Do the documentary about, I guess her name is Aubrey, or the young white girl from Danny Kane. Do the documentary on them. Do the documentary on some of those other victims, like the guy that owned 25% of Bad Boy, and then at the end he said some things like he, I guess, was done some sexual things with Puff or whatnot, and then he got played out of his 25%. Do the documentary on him, because what's more important is, at least for my children, how what type of person were you? What went on in your young life to lead you to become this adult, or led you to this situation to where now you have a decision to make and you chose to go left instead of going right? We need to understand that, right? We need to understand why Cassie, as an 18-year-old girl, 19-year-old girl, wants to walk this line of entertainment, which I've been in the entertainment industry. That's a vicious game. I've been in the drug game. That's a vicious game that comes with a lot of consequences. And I'm going to tell you, early on, you're going to see a lot of those consequences thrown right in your face. And you're going to have decisions to make early on. So what made her continue to go down that path? What was her childhood like? Where was her parental figures? Right? Same with the little white girl. Her mom told her to go join the making of the band. So where was her parental figures when it came to it? Or were both of them that ambitious, and the little ride dude too? Were all of them that ambitious to accomplish their goals, that they were making a sacrifice to do what they do? And they did what they did. And technically, at the end of it, especially at Cassie, she got compensated for all of the shit that she did. So, I mean, fair exchange really ain't no robbery, right? Think of it like this. If you guys, or for anyone out there who maybe has had some people in their family that have been pimps or drug dealers or whatnot, or even murderers, right? Which pimp, drug dealer, or murderer you know is giving money back to the old hoes that they pimped, or money to the families of the niggas that they didn't kill? Who? Where? You know what's fucked up in our culture? The black culture, the hood culture, we celebrate niggas getting out of prison who were notorious gangsters back in the day. We celebrate them. Now they come and they do non-profit shit and parties and shit, and we celebrate them like, yeah, he home. So, what's the difference with Puff? Puff was really a square that grew around that culture. His father was a gangster. So, he's really just executing our culture at large. That's really it. But we have a very flawed, and I'm just speaking about black people, but it really, I guess, human culture in general, right? But I'm just speaking from a black person's perspective, an American black person's perspective, hood perspective. We really have some fucked up ideals and fucked up ways about ourselves, where, you know, like you always hear cats like, yeah, man, my family, my uncles, my dad, they kept it real. You know, my dad, man, he was really outside. Like, that's celebrating that shit. He was really outside. What did that mean? That means he was really doing some very fucked up shit to people around and out there. That's what that means. He stood on business. I mean, he downed a few cats, and we celebrate that. Like, yeah, my people don't go in fucking with my folks. So, yeah, that means my folks will do some fucked up shit. So then when you put it on a broader scale in this American ideal, and you get somebody like Trump in office, and he just thugging just like your uncle thugging. So why the fuck are we crucifying him? He thugging just like your uncle. Just like your dad. Right? The dude that was keeping it real. Or like the homie that came home. Right? He thugging the same way. So we all, as humans, have to understand that the human species in general do some really good things, but we do some really fucked up things. And that goes back through the course of history. Kings, you don't become the king just because. You become the king because you have a combination of things. Some charisma that leads to some influence, and somewhere along the line you cut some heads off and you fucking rose to power. That's how you become the king. And how you maintain as the king is by constantly displaying that you will continue to cut heads off. And in the course of that, if you don't think, and this is global, this is humans, if through the course of that lifespan, if you don't think it was some weird sex acts and shit going on from someone who's a king, You out of your fucking mind. Power and money leads to the darkest depths that a person could think, because you can do whatever. And once you start to do more and more and more, then it takes more to feed that ego of yours. So I'm blessed to have lived in a certain bubble, or that kind of kept me safe from doing heinous shit. But at the same time, I don't judge some of the people that have done heinous shit in that regards. I just know that everybody has a price to pay, and pay that shit. When it's time to pay, you gotta pay that shit. Period. Whether it's off with your head, or off with your money, or off with your kids' head, or off with their money, or their reputation, it's a price to pay. And we all have a price to pay for these things that we want and these lives that we live. And so, no tears over here for nothing. It just is what it is. Your boy Puff, he'll be out. You know, his kids are out doing their thing. I just hope they seemed like they were groomed into that same type of mentality. You know, but maybe this is a lesson for them, to show them that, hey, that lifestyle, this is how it's perceived at large. And maybe that lifestyle is something that maybe you should try to stay away from, right? Like a reformed gangster or a reformed pimp talking to his daughter or sons. I'm not raising, if I'm a former pimp, I don't want to raise my son to be a pimp, right? If I'm a former high executive that has done many shit, I don't want to raise my children to do some of those darker things that I have done. So this could be a good thing for them to see at large how people view their father and some of the damage that he has caused on his way to like this mega status of his, you know. And what really matters is, you know, how you treat others and how you are perceived by others in the end, you know. So damn, it's a good documentary though. I think I give it 5 stars. It's a good documentary, but people, back off with that judging and shit, all that judgment and shit. That's a nasty, freaky ass motherfucker. And a lot of you are nasty, freaky ass motherfuckers doing all type of main shit. You know, his shit is just on display. So, it's whatever.